Good morning. Thank you for joining the ACVA webinar on Sun in Aquarius. This presentation has been pre-recorded because I'll be in India on the day it was scheduled. So I'm happy to share this with you, and I'm really glad you came. Let me go ahead and share my screen and start the slideshow. Great. So today we're talking about the Sun in Aquarius. I changed my picture up a little bit. I thought I'd give you my most Indian picture that I have from a former trip. So I'm glad you came today, and I also want to thank you for subscribing to the American College of Vedic Astrology YouTube channel. And this is where we're going to be posting more and more videos over the coming years. So it's a great way to keep in touch with what the college is doing. Also, you can join our newsletter at acvaonline.org. And also, I always like to let people know that we are a tax-free organization. So if you make any donations, they do, help offset all your massive income on your taxes. And so it's really helpful. Even the small amount helps us improve for grants and things like that. The more donors we have, the better. So something to consider. So today we're going to be talking about Sun in Aquarius. We're also going to be talking about how the solar-lunar axis accentuates certain themes that we find with Sun in Aquarius. We'll go through the current transits, and then we'll go sign by sign with some ideas about how you can use this energy in your life productively. So the Sun goes into Aquarius on February 14th and is there until March 13th. Now, if we just take a minute to think about what is Sun in Aquarius. Sun is a Sattvic planet. It's the brightest object in the universe for us. And so it's a very powerful force that is always guiding us towards a higher consciousness. It helps to purify everything. I mean, even sunlight itself is considered a disinfectant. So it's really a force that's helping to move us forward on all levels. Aquarius is a very interesting sign to me because the first 8 signs of the zodiac are about coming into the world and then being in the world. The last 4 signs are really about preparing, like summarizing all the lessons, all of our experience from these different signs and transmuting them to higher lessons. So really, this is where the self-improvement goes into high gear from Sagittarius through Pisces. And Aquarius is the sign that's related to Kama, which is desire. So the Aquarian desires are not really ambition or materialism. They're really on the higher level. Like, really, what is it we desire? The last 4 signs puts us in more that eternal cosmic space where everything is, there's getting away from the transient material. So it's interesting, the Sun is coming into Aquarius. The first indication that comes up to mind is that this is a chance to really, with focused effort and a little energy behind it, to really maybe, change some things in our life that will really improve how we exist in this world and how we can help others. So the 3 nakshatras that are there, which I really look at closely, I'm studying them more and more because they give a lot of meat kind of to the signs. So we start the first 6 degrees, 40 minutes of Aquarius are ruled by Mars in the sign of Dhanishta. And so you can see that the gunas there, which are the motivation, the primary guna is sattva. We've come to that, the last 4 signs are all primarily concerned with purification and sattva, the higher knowledge. But it's still 2 signs of tamas, which is the really deeply material things. So this means that we're still at the beginning of it. We have all of the elements that are coming to us through the 8 vasus, which are earth, air, fire, water, ether, the 5, plus the sun, moon, and Dhruva, the force of motionlessness. So we have all of these things that we're still working with, we're still connected to. And it reminds me of what the teachers say, that you can't give up something that you've never had. So we have all these things that are still on like the tool bench that we're still working with, let's say. And we're learning to release them, or to really learn the true value they have in our life. It's not always about releasing them, but maybe we're expecting something out of it that it's not capable of giving. Like, food is necessary and nourishing, but it really can't bring happiness, even though many people, myself included, use it as a great coping mechanism. So this is the kind of the first element of Aquarius, is how do you move forward, looking at all of the things you have, all the advantages, all the disadvantages, all of that kind of stuff. And we move into the core of the sign, which is from 6 degrees 40 to 20 degrees, is Shatabishak, which is ruled by Rahu. Rahu's the indicator of the karma in your life, the new karma that's coming in to mature. And you'll notice that now the gunas have switched. 2 of them are sattvic, and tamasic is still in the middle. So we're really taking a step deeper into the sattvic energy. And this gives the power of healing. So this sign has 2 relations to it. One is Varuna, but also sage Valmiki. There's a story here about how he was born to a sage, and then as a child he got lost in the woods. So he was kind of left on his own, and he began to rob people in order to, meet his daily needs and whatever. And then one day he came across a great sage, and he tried to rob him. And the sage looked at him and said, why do you rob people? And Valmiki said, well, I have to provide for my family and everything. And the sage said, well, have you asked them if they're willing to bear the karmic debt of what you're doing to support them? So he went back to his family, and they all said, no, we need to find a better way to move forward. And I think that's a great story that shows a deeper side of Aquarius, that it's about looking at what we're doing, because not that we ever do anything for bad reasons. We do them why it looks like the best option at the time. If you're a kid lost in the forest, we understand. And in a way, we're all children lost in the forest. So this is a great time to balance the light and dark side of our nature and recognize why I say the value of both here, but it's how they served a purpose. But now, with more experience, we may be able to do things in a better way, which is a very powerful statement of Sun in Aquarius. And the last degrees, from 20 degrees up through 3 degrees of Pisces, is ruled by Jupiter. And again, we have 2 sattvic levels and Rajasic. So we are now really actively looking for sattva, because Rajas is dissatisfied and is always looking for better solutions. So here we have the power to raise a spiritual person up in life. This is really setting us up for the culmination of the sun's whole transits through all the signs. And it's also getting us ready to move into the next level after sun goes into Aries. So the idea is to move beyond the play of Maya, like the good-bad duality, and see the world more with divine detachment. Let me get some water. So what does all this mean? So the sun in Aquarius, I think the sun is related to the ego. It's our sense of ourself and who we are. And Aquarius is about freeing yourself from the limitations of the ego. The symbol of Aquarius is a water jar that's pouring out water. Well, in India, it's often said to be pouring out medicines. So it's pouring out healing, and it's so much that it relates us to the masses. Then also the vessel, the jar, the kumbha has been broken. And the kumbha represents our ego, because as we define ourselves, we are limiting ourselves. So the goal here is to redefine ourselves. I mean, ultimately we shatter the ego and we transcend to a higher level. But, this doesn't mean that we don't do anything until then. We really kind of start that process every time we look at something we consider a limitation of defining who we are, and re-examine it and say, yes, maybe it still does fit, but perhaps it doesn't. Perhaps there's a better way. Aquarius relates to helping and healing on a community level, and the sun is our vital energy, which can become limitless once we are free from the ego. So think about it. It's like if you have a light in a room that's all closed up, that room is very bright, but nothing else is. When you open the window or open the door, the light spills out. So this is the potential and the hope that your efforts and everything can spill out. So we must see the light and the dark and know that they are both shadows. So the light here on this plane is illuminating things that we perceive to be real, that are actually transient. So we can look at those things and be thankful for them and use them because, you know, we have to sustain ourselves in this world, but always knowing that this is temporary and we can go to a higher level. So I want to talk about the beneficial use of the solar energy in Aquarius. I have to admit, I mean, I've been studying this for so long, and recently I picked up a book and was reading it. It's about how to apply yogic principles to, you know, the business world. And it dawned on me, like, our remedies, we are part of Vedic knowledge. And a huge part of the Vedic knowledge are the yoga sutras or the shastras, the teachings of yoga. And that prescribes some really specific things we can do to improve ourselves, which really can help us address like this kind of Aquarian energy that we're in. So there's a set of guidelines called the niyamas. There's yamas and then there's niyamas as part of the 8 limbs. And these are guidelines for self-care. And I think as astrologers, especially, I mean, as Vedic astrologers, we can use all of these things to support our readings and help give ourselves and our clients kind of specific goals to do. So I want to go through the niyamas today just as an offering to you and see if some of this doesn't resonate in yourself and in your work with your clients. So saucha is called cleanliness. And really what that's talking about is not only physical cleanliness, orderliness, because, you know, you want to have an organized environment, but because otherwise, you know, if it's too cluttered, you don't get the work done cleanly. So the 2 subtle points I pulled out of this were that we need to encourage ourselves and others to take in pure food, water, and fresh air. And I'm adding to that uplifting media. In the world today, what you watch, like what you're taking in through all your senses affects your being and how you perceive the world. So it's really important to stay with pure food, water, fresh air, which the classics give, but also really monitor what you're taking in. Because our brain doesn't know the difference between what we watch on television and what we actually experience it. On a subtle level, we are actually experiencing everything you watch on television or read about on social media. Also, to surround yourself with positive, supportive people who inspire you to be your best. The second principle is called santosha, which means contentment and gratitude. So the idea is to become comfortable and happy with what we have. This doesn't mean that you don't have ambition and the desire to grow, but really take time to recognize everything that you have. And it will alleviate your stress. It will also help to lower your autonomic nervous system, everything, because there's an endless loop of desire of things we don't have. So if you put all your energy there, you're in a constant state of upset. But when you sit back and realize all the things you have, it's a wonderful practice and it really helps keep you centered and grounded. Also become aware of the positive thoughts we have each day, and more will arise. Often in journaling, people tend to go into the negative, like this, you know, you have one bad interaction with someone at the checkout line at the grocery store and you relive it all day. So the idea is to flip the script. You know, start thinking about how, oh, that person like gave me their cart as I was going into the shopping, you know, into the grocery store, and how nice of them to think of me. So this is part of really switching your mind, and it helps you build contentment and gratitude, which keeps you, again, ready to do the deeper work. Tapas is discipline. So the idea is to create a daily routine. And I really want to stress a daily routine that you can follow. So a daily routine, we all have one. Everyone has a morning routine. Think about it. when you wake up, how many times you hit the snooze, things like that. And so just make little changes to it. Just, get on your yoga mat and say, I'm going to be there for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and set a timer, and then just play, just stretch and move however you want. Do the postures you like, do everything that's fun. And slowly through this positive reinforcement, it will build into a practice you look forward to, and immediately you start the day off feeling contented and gratitude. The next one is introspection. So it's very important to reflect on our actions, reactions, and the consequences that arise each day. And again, I want to stress, make sure it's at least 50-50 good and bad. But often we're so tired and we're so busy and so overcommitted, we never take time to reflect. So this just kind of goes into unprocessed experiences that just mount up, and in our psyche, and then start causing pressure. So, the best thing is to jot down a few lines in a journal, about just what happened today. Start with the easy stuff, just list out what you did. And then gradually over time, more stuff will come up. And your awareness will just build naturally. And really, you're building the muscle to reflect on what you're doing, which is the powerful part of all of this. And the last one is called surrendering to a higher power. And in today's world, the core lesson here is to release the belief that you are in control. Our society in many, many ways tells us you're responsible for yourself. And we are, responsible for our behavior in a way, but be very clear about what you can control and you can't control. The simple rule is what happens to you, you can't control. How you react to it is the area that we should concentrate on. We can only, we all have our moments, and that's fine. And just note the reaction, practice forgiveness, and, think about how you can improve next time. The other thing is to identify how you connect to something greater than you. This is the great cushion of life, when you don't feel it's just you alone, that you have someone with you, a greater power, a higher, something that takes you into that quiet space within yourself. And then cultivate devotion, which we call bhakti, toward that entity on a regular basis. And that's part of your daily routine. Again, before you turn on the TV, take, 15 minutes to write a few things and list your gratitudes and say, express thankfulness to a higher power that helps give us what we have, because that gets us out of the mindset thinking that we have to do everything. So those are just a few ideas on some practices that may help use the solar energy in Aquarius. So let's talk about the lunar cycle. So the new moon starts or occurs on February 23rd at 10 degrees of Aquarius, which is in Shatabishak. Now that's really the principle of Valmiki and transitioning our lives and everything. So where the new moon is placed gives us one impetus, really of the energy that's going to manifest. The other impetus is so we start from introspection, self-control, self-examination, and we move through all those niyamas. That's really the new moon. You can start your daily routine there. That's a good place to start new things. And then at the full moon, we kind of start to look for the results of what's going to manifest. And this month, the full moon is on March 9th at 25 degrees Leo in the sign of Purva Falguni. So this we have just listed out you can see the top 3 rows. The gray one, the 23rd, is the new moon in Aquarius. I've given the details at the bottom of the grid. And then we have the full moon there. So let's talk about the full moon in Leo and Purva Falguni. So Leo and Aquarius are both fixed signs. This will help to stabilize our mental and emotional world as we kind of venture into some areas which, maybe we haven't gone into a lot before. But the other thing is we can feel stuck. So this is going to be a little impetus, there can be a little resistance for making changes. So be aware of that energy, because part of being an astrologer is we can read the energy. So we know if we're feeling a little resistance, that's just the character of the energy that we're in. And since, the new moon and the full moon are both in fixed signs, we know that use it for stability, but don't use it as limitations. It helps us to interpret it. In Purva Palguni, we get the material comforts and rest. And so that's nice because, hopefully they'll help smooth out just, the day-to-day stuff, fewer crises, so we really have time to do deeper work. If you're always in chaos, you can't really jump into, a lot of introspection. You have to time everything, with what's going on and select the right time to do this kind of work. Purva Palguni gives the results of our past good deeds. So this is very fortunate because, it's going to help guide us into that higher plane as well as what's going on in Aquarius. And it also reminds us that we can be blind to the faults of things that we want. So this is where our introspection is going to help us cope with that. So I thought we would just look at the chart for a minute of the full moon. This is based on Seattle time. And one thing I want to just point out is look how nicely the planets are spreading out. Remember, a couple months ago, everything was stacked up in Sagittarius. And now we have a lot of strength coming through the chart. On this day, we have Jupiter in his own sign, Saturn in his own sign. The sun is moving out away from the group. He likes to have space. So Mercury and Venus with him is to be expected, but the fact that he's past all those other slower planets, it'll give us a feeling of relief, just a breathing room is what we're going to be experiencing now. So what are the lessons of the full moon? The moon's placement in Purva Palguni can deliver the positive fruits of our niyama practices. Good news. This stable energy can help us to embrace discipline in a positive way. And I want to stress that. We have to put a little effort into getting a routine started. But if it becomes a drudge, something we don't like to do, you're not going to continue it. So I would say, try things for a couple days, do 3 days. If you do 3 days in a row, you'll know if it's going to work or not. And that just means if it's not working, you need to change the routine, try it out for another 3 days and keep going. Practicing contentment will help to balance out the material rewards that arise. So this is good. Don't get trapped in that old thinking of I need more and more, because that's really not going to work well with the sun in the more sattvic signs. And practicing introspection will help us identify our blind spots. So we already kind of have everything. It's nice how it all kind of comes together, that this is the real focus. This is what this is what sun is offering us. And to the degree we can take advantage, good for us. So let's look at the other transits, because there's quite a few things going on here. As you know, this year is really the year of the Mahapurusha yogas, the great yogas, where planets are in their own sign and in an angle from the sun or the moon. So this is a very advanced yoga. It means that there's a lot of positive karma coming into the world for manifestation. So we're getting a lot of support from the planets. Every sign doesn't get every yoga, but every sign does get some of the yogas. And so that's a very unusual occurrence. So that signature is continuing. The planets in blue, you'll see, are the ones that are in their own sign, in dignity. So, Venus continues to be exalted in Pisces up until the 28th. So keep thinking of, how you could best use that energy. And Jupiter and Saturn for the whole month for both of them, most of the year, they're giving out this positive energy. So let's do a little bit of a deep dive on that. So with Venus, it's still giving what we call the Malavya Yoga, and this is active for people with your Lagna or Moon in Gemini, Virgo, Sag, or Pisces, okay? And so the idea about this yoga is that it gives material success, but not necessarily happiness. That's Venus's key phrase. So it can give you popularity, fame, and spiritual knowledge that can be used to enhance material gains. So you may be doing, good work, advising, consulting, helping other people. So there can be some material things that come from it. The whole idea is that the focus has to be on sharing the spiritual knowledge, and then the material gains come as a result. If you flip that and it's about, oh, I just need the money and so I'm going to do it, it's not going to work. So Saturn is giving a Sasha Yoga to Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And so this is the ability to shoulder responsibility, face karmic debts, and champion unfashionable causes. So for all these, cardinal signs out there, you'll really be able to make progress, this most of this year. Use this energy to go forward. And I think a lot of that is to set a goal that you really want to accomplish. You can kind of dream big because you've got time. Saturn's going to be in Capricorn for like 3 years. So really, what is the long-term goal? And it may be something really significant that you can just put your energy in, because when you're working in that, it's amazing how the day-to-day energy comes for you to keep going on that. So experiment with that. Jupiter is giving Hamsa Yoga to Gemini, Virgo, Sag, and Pisces. So really, this is kind of a power month for you guys, because Venus and Jupiter are both really strongly or really well placed. And that's not the only time. In a couple months, we're going to get a long transit of Venus again in his own sign. So Jupiter is giving Hamsa Yoga, and it gives the ability to impart wisdom and knowledge to others without material gain. So it's very interesting that these both things are working, in the same signs. So work with that. It also gives the ability to influence people in positions of power. So you may have the opportunity to, what they say, speak truth to power, or impact someone who impacts a lot of other lives. And so just look out for that opportunity and you'll know, oh, okay, so this is coming. This is how I can handle this. And the ability to grasp the manifest and unmanifest dynamics in any situation. So this gives a very deep vision into what is going to be coming up. And this is for the Jupiter transit for, again, many, many months. I want to note that this month, Jupiter, Mars have a conjunction on March 19th at 28 degrees Sagittarius. So circle that day. Jupiter, Mars are conjuncting. That can be for any of us. It can, sometimes Jupiter can blow up Mars's energy. So it can be a big thing. The other way around is that you can do really get deep spiritual insights into your own areas that you want to work on. And as always, if you have a planet at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, you're much more likely to feel the results more directly. So we also have a Mercury retrograde this month, and that will be retrograding from 17th of February until March 10th. So he'll move from 18 degrees of Aquarius back to 4 degrees of Aquarius. So he'll go from Shatabishak, he'll go back into Dhanishta. And then, so that's something to be aware of. When a planet stays in the same sign during its retrograde, it's called Vakra retrograde, which means bent, curved, twisted. The whole idea is that if you have planets between 18 degrees of Aquarius and 4 degrees, they're going to get 3 passes. So I always like to note what's going on when the first pass occurs and see if it doesn't come back on the retrograde and then resolve at the third pass for it. So it's just really getting like kind of a deep massage in that area of it. So this could be a time where you can really break up old patterns and things like that. If you don't have any planets there, you're probably not going to feel it as much. But do be aware of the dates when Mercury stations. This will be the most potent energy for the disturbance. So that'll be on February 17th and on March 10th. So it's just best to avoid all the same stuff we always prescribe, like, don't sign a contract, double check your work, don't schedule difficult negotiations or things like that for those days, because communication will be impaired. So I also wanted to point out that during the retrograde, Mars and K2 will have their conjunction. and that will be on the 24th of February, and that'll be at 11 degrees Sagittarius. So all the same things. If you have planets at 11 degrees there, more likely to experience it, and also circle February 24th on your calendar. That is the Mars-Ketu conjunction. I also want to bring up a feature that's starting in the chart, and this is the Kalasarpa cycle. And what this means is all the planets are within 180 degrees. So the nodes form the axis across the chart, and all the planets are on one side of it. Now, the way Kalasarpa yogas work is that the moon goes in with all the other planets. That's the Kalasarpa. When the moon comes out and crosses over, then the Kalasarpa is canceled. So it's a 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So you can see here the dates that it is active. So the whole cycle goes from February 23rd until May 25th. So it tends to just bring a little more intense energy. While this is a definite signature in a birth chart, transit-wise, what I've noticed is it just seems to be a little more, pressure. You kind of feel, you often don't see the other side. If you're having a conversation with someone, it's more difficult to see their perspective. Things like that. The energy is a little more polarized. Now we look and we note that it's going to be happening, the first one, during a Mercury retrograde. So that may indeed be the most intense one of all of them. But it's just a little something to watch. The ways it most often manifests is, first of all, in relationships. So if there's, some stress going on in the relationship, you can just, chalk it up to Kalasarpa, wait for the moon to come around, and most of the time it will resolve. There can also be issues with children, minor health things can come up, and then you look at your career, business, profession. There can be, you may have a bunch of deadlines due during those times. That's an interesting thing to watch, is like how hectic your days get at work during this Kalasarpa. And finally, there can be some financial implications. But the most common is relationships. The least common is finances. So it's just something to be aware of, and we'll be tracking it through the thing. So I invite you to provide feedback if you notice something, and it would be really interesting to hear from you. So let's go sign by sign. If the moon or Lagna are in Aries, the sun will be in your 11th house. This is the natural zodiac, so this always applies to everyone in general. So the idea here, I think, is to examine both sides of your nature concerning effort and reward. If they're not balanced, there'll be disharmony. So this is kind of the core of it. Look at where you're placing your energy. Is that in the right proportion to the results you're getting from that thing? Classically, work. Are you giving enough energy to work, or are you withholding work, because you feel overwhelmed? And so then it makes it more overwhelming. You get further behind. Conversely, are you working way too much time and it's not giving you the reward? And, finding that work-life balance, that's going to be key this month. Taurus, the sun will be in the 10th house. So, examine again your work-life balance, because Taurus is in the 10th house. It's the house of career and work anyway. So what parts of your career support your higher life goals? If not, how are you working towards those lasting goals? Release your stubbornness into the joy of being flexible. Because Taurians can be a little fixed, if you haven't noticed. And the idea here is that, is your work satisfying your higher goals? And the real key to satisfaction is aligning what you do most of your day with some part of your greater plan. So just, work that out. And if not, it's not possible. There's times we all have to do the job for money. Okay, that's great. But then make sure you're spending time actually working on those things that support really your soul, your inner nature. Geminis will have, the sun will be in the 9th house. So being a lifelong learner supports a healthy, well-rounded life. How are you managing your continuing education? Geminis, you've always got to be learning. That curiosity, you've got to satisfy it. So, spend time, try to carve out time with your hobbies, try to, learn something you've always wanted to do. Study astrology. That's a never-ending task, as we all know. So, maybe pick something new, pick Varshapal or some technique and get into it and, connect to the joy of study and education. Cancer will have Sun in the 8th house. So this is a chance to gain insight into hidden areas of your past. Use the niyamas to observe your automatic responses and coping mechanisms. So these are, it's a good thing. Cancers are so intuitive, they're so connected, but yet there's always more. There's something a little deeper there. So this could be a supportive time to, delve into those areas. For Leo, Sun will be in your 7th house. So of course, that's partnerships, they're dynamic. And this month will be a good time to do a cost-benefit analysis to see how the relationship can be improved for both parties. So this could be 7th house's negotiation. And Leo's not always a strong suit to negotiate. We all know that. But this could be a time where you could look in there and really see what's working. That's where I would always start, working with partners, or if I work with couples, like, how does it, what's working? And then say, well, what's not working so much? And, through open-mindedness and sharing, hopefully you can find a rebalance to keep the relationship fresh and healthy. Virgos, the Sun will be in your 6th house. So examine your daily routine and work life, not only on the job, but at home. So the daily routine is like all the stuff we have to do to keep the house running, pay the bills, do the laundry, mop the floors, clean the kitchen, all that kind of stuff. And see if you can't connect to some joy, some part of it. It's part of the niyamas, is cleanliness. So maybe that's what you could count it for. Where do you find resistance? That's always the interesting place to kind of look and say, like, why am I avoiding that stack of papers, right there in the dining room that keeps growing and growing? So get creative about ways to alleviate that resistance. Put on your favorite music, sit down with the shredder next to you and just see how much of it you can just shred. Libra, the Sun will be in your 5th house. So Libra and Aquarius are both signs of desire. But in Aquarius, we have moved to desires which are beyond the physical and are of a more pure sattvic nature. So habit can direct us back into old and less desirable patterns. So experiment with pure food and water as well as regular sleep and see if you don't feel better. That's the idea, is to do something in your daily routine that actually you feel better, take time to recognize you feel better, and that will help perpetuate the cycle and make it more effortless. Scorpio will be in your 4th house. So take action to support others and you'll get out of your shell and experience more openness and freedom. Turn it over to a higher power and you'll be set free. Scorpio is very difficult, that scorpionic energy in all of us. I mean, it's the sun and the moon. I mean, the lugna and the moon, most important, but we all have Scorpio working somewhere in our life. And that's where we can get really bound up and, knotted up, trying to feel like we're in control of everything. So this is a time to just breathe, and by focusing on helping others, it's one of the good ways to get out of our mind. Sagittarius will have Sun in your 3rd house. So seek the company of supportive, positive friends and colleagues, and remember support goes both ways. Sagittarius is great for this. It's like you have a lot going on. That energy is, very important to all of us, but it's also can be such a bright light to others. So be sure that you're sharing that in a good way. Capricorn, Sun will be in the 2nd house. So you can gain insight into family matters and can heal old patterns by accepting that everyone is doing their best. Once you let go of the thought that you must be in control, remember that no one else has to be in control either, okay? Find a common alliance. Just being that compassionate statement of they're doing their best and really mean it can really help adjust all those expectations and kind of meet them where they're at. And from there, conversation can begin. And until you're there, you can't really have a dialogue. So that's the key for Capricorns. Aquarians, the Sun is in your 1st house. So channel all that energies towards service to your passion projects, things that nurture you, things that fill you. And literally just take this month to follow your bliss. Your Aquarian nature is going to guide you in this natural direction anyway. It's just getting supercharged by the sun. Pisces, sun is in your 12th house. This is the weakest house for the sun, which indicates that you can make great progress in seeing beyond your ego into the greater interconnectedness of all beings. You know, this is the Piscean nature. So with the sun being right there in the 12th, it's really highlighting that subconscious connection. So really take from it, as always for Pisces, be paying attention to your dreams. That's like the mode of communication that the cosmos is going to use to really help you and support you. So that's my presentation for today. I really want to thank you for joining me. I look forward to March. We're planning to go back to live webinars. But if you want, you can leave comments down in the comment section, and I'll be monitoring them, and I'm always happy to answer questions. And I appreciate your feedback. Thank you very much.